I'm Floyd Robertson.
And I'm Earl Cannonbear.
And this is the SCTV News.
Tonight's top story. Tragedy struck a Plattsburgh family last night when a tornado tore through their two-story frame house, ripping it from its foundation and hurling it into the air, where it shattered into a million pieces. Emil Duncan told SCTV News early this morning he had no insurance on the house and lost all his worldly possessions. However, unlike the movie Gone with the Wind, this item has a happy ending. The notoriety the Duncan family has received from this disaster has made them the talk of the town. Floyd?
Panasonic, who manufactures the unique prenatal educational recorders that are supposed to teach unborn infants to speak 7 languages at birth, yesterday recalled 20,000 of its models because of defective parts. Company spokesman refused to reveal the specific defect, but consumer advocate Charles Green, who purchased one of the recorders, claims that his newborn son, Squire, was born sounding like, quote, a Spanish version of Alvin the Chipmunk, unquote. Earl?
Municipal budget cutbacks will force the closing of the Henderson Memorial Home for the Aged here in Mellonville, much to the dismay of the 140 old people who now reside there. Mayor Tommy Shanks regretted the decision, stating that the residents have no homes to go to and no money to support themselves. The depressing fact of the matter is that the money saved from the closing of the home will be used to increase City Hall salaries. Floyd?
Well, I think it's a pretty sad state of affairs when something like that can happen in this day and age. Very sad.
Well, the way I see it, Floyd, there is a bright, rosy side to this story, and that is that these elderly citizens will now be forced to fend for themselves. In other words, give them something to do during the day. Give them a goal in life, namely survival.
What's gotten into you? What is this happy ending news kick you're on? I mean, what's happy about old people being thrown out into the streets or a man's home being destroyed?
Floyd, let me ask you this. When you look at a rainbow, what do you see?
Are you on drugs?
Do you see that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, or do you just see the rainbow? When you look at a cloud, do you see that silver lining? I love happy endings, Floyd. I'm an optimist.
You're a jerk. Straighten up. Your job's on the line.
Well, if I get fired, Floyd, it'll probably give some young news journalist a chance to launch a new career here at the news department at SCTV, a rewarding sacrifice as I see it.
Earl, shut up.
Shut up. Okay, silence is golden.
Earl, you're making a fool out of yourself.
That's all right, Floyd. It gives people something to laugh at.
I'm going to strangle you with my hands, my bare hands.
Well, Floyd, if it'll make you feel better, go ahead.
That's it. That's it. I can't. Forget it. I can't take this.
That's all right, Floyd. Don't worry. I'll wrap up. And that's the news. But don't be sad. There is a happy ending to this report. We'll be back again tomorrow. Good night.
He's back again tomorrow. Don't be concerned. I'm all right.
No problem.
Hello and welcome to Flyby Films, a once or twice a month podcast that, using the magic of distance-defying shit, or distance-defying tubes or some shit like that. I always mess this up.
Distance-defying shit, huh?
Distance-defying. You know what? I was telling Blake before we started that I'm very tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep. We're celebrating our anniversary in the Bay Area, so I just got back. But that's not an excuse, really, because I always mess this up. But yeah, distance-defying shit.
That
sounds more
your
important.
Anniversary?
Yeah. No,
Is
Friday.
it today or yesterday? Friday.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah, that's what I was like,
Was the
you
anniversary.
really should have told us to change the date.
Yeah, then you should have been like, no, Sunday does not work.
No. We got to celebrate. We got to do our thing, and I'm back in time for this. I'm just tired, but like I said, I could go again. So, again, welcome to Flyby Films, once or twice a month podcast that using the magic of distance-defying tubes or some shit like that. My friend from Tulsa, California, or Tulsa, Oklahoma.
This is gonna be a good episode, guys.
Ooh. Blake, I should have just said no. I'll let you do the intro. Anyway, you guys know the deal. We get together, we talk about movies, we mess up our intros. Today, we're going to be talking about the Canadian classic 1969's Going Down the Road. And this, as I mentioned, is a Canadian film, and so it was actually brought to us by our good friend in the Great North, Aren Bergstrom.
Also known as the Canadian contingent.
Yes.
Yeah, the official correspondent.
Yeah.
Now it's two. I'm giving myself that designation.
Great. Well, Aren, welcome to the podcast, and yeah.
Thanks for having me on. The new August tradition, I guess. I don't know. Does two things make a tradition?
As long as you are open in August, we will keep having you on.
We will pencil it in for 2027.
Yeah. But only pencil.
Yeah.
Ink is too permanent.
Yeah.
So Aren, first off, your son, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Is one?
Yeah, he's 14 months now.
14 months. So
yeah.
Okay, so I need to ask a question. What is the best parenting technique that you have discovered thus far?
No, that's I've discovered nothing. It's all earned. It's all borrowed knowledge. I'll say that. It's
borrowed knowledge.
Okay. Yeah. There's nothing I've discovered on my own.
There's some wisdom there.
You're not going to write a book yet.
No. I'm not hapless or anything, but it's like if my wife says it, or it seemed to really work with my parents or her parents, or my brothers, it's like, okay, there's some trial and error there that's gone through the rigors. We can do that, but no, I'm not at that point where I have any confidence in giving any advice to anyone.
No, I'm not talking advice. I'm just talking technique.
No,
do you have like can you like put your hand on your son's head and say sleep, and he just automatically goes to sleep?
I wish. No, he's a pretty good sleeper, honestly, but he's in that extreme, discovery phase right now. So he's climbing stairs and he's trying to mimic us. He's not quite walking yet, but he probably could if he really wanted to. Mm-hmm. And it's that sleep would be really boring. I could just keep practicing all the things I'm want to do, right? So it's a bit of touch and go, but he's sleeping right now, so that's a good thing.
Nice. Jameson, how's your kid?
He's good.
How's your other kid?
He's also good. They're both good.
Well, great.
He's still in utero right now, so hasn't joined the outside world.
Are you gonna call him Kurt?
No. We do have a name picked out. We haven't.
You're not supposed to tell us.
We haven't announced it yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's due December 7th, and the other one we just left for 48 hours with some new people, and that was good. He did really well. He went to mass for the first time.
Whoa.
Which it was pretty cool. My friend Greg watched him, and he was like, he asked us before, he was like, do you guys mind if I take him to Catholic mass? And I was like, no, I don't mind. It might be weird if you just show up with a random kid, but but apparently he was great. He was a champion, so that
did they teach him to make sure to cross his arms over his whenever he goes up?
It's very important.
Eucharist.
Have I told you the story that I screwed that up? I went with my friend.
Well, you can lie and say you are Catholic and take the mass.
Well, I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and I accidentally took half of the Eucharist, which almost seems worse. But yeah. So then I got yelled at by my friend. But it was only because he was ashamed himself. But yeah.
Yeah. This is why I'm not Catholic. Too many rules. I can't
Many
keep it
rules.
all in my head. Yeah, my kids are batshit, so we're good otherwise. They're
You
all
said
over
it
the
was a
place.
busy day. What
Yeah.
what went down?
Nothing like extreme or unusual per se. It just seemed like they were on their top notch, like full throttle mentality most of the day. Especially the last little bit. The hour before, when I sent you all the invites for this recording, I I was unsure if I was going to be on time because my kids were having issues with each other and they were having a hard time going to sleep because they were having issues with each other. So, but we got them to sleep in separate beds because my youngest was singing and that was annoying my oldest. And so, yeah, we're all good. We're all good. So, yeah. Anyway, that's just the simple fact that we're all dads. I had to ask the question. And this is a low-key parenting podcast anyways. We joke about it all the time. We talk about our kids and our families more than probably actual legitimate conversation about movies most of the time. So, Aren, the other thing I wanted to bring up, because we've talked about this in the past, just you and me, and I feel like we need to bring it up on the podcast to air our grievances. You said that you had issues with the back half of Pontypool. And I need you to state your case and why you're wrong.
Cool.
Wait.
When
for
did you stop
starters-
beating your wife?
For starters, I would like to say, Blake told me that he was like, "Oh, we should bring this up on the podcast," and I was like, "I don't want to just bring Aren on and challenge him on these things. It's fine, but I guess that's what we're gonna do." So apologies, Aren.
It's all friendly. Aren knows I don't actually mean it. I don't care if he dislikes the back half of Pontypool. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, so
Clearly, yeah.
It's conflict, Jameson. Don't you understand? Podcasts work on conflict.
Oh no, I don't. Sorry.
It's like movie court.
Yeah, movie court.
I didn't know I'm on the stand. It's like, wait, where am I? No, I don't hate Pontypool. I obviously am impressed with the concept, and I quite like the first half. I'm a big fan of Stephen McHattie.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the voice, he's got the just on-screen charisma. He has that kind of character actor thing where you rarely see him in a leading role. So when you do, it's a pleasure to just have him holding the screen because he has the chops to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I conceptually really appreciate the reveal of Pontypool that it's all about, you know, language driving people to this zombie-like madness. It's a cool concept, especially that I feel like it's become more true in the years since its release, and in which the internet has become a funnel of just absolute poison that we're just pouring into our ears like all day, every day, or eyes, or, you know,
ongoing gibberish day in, day out.
It does leave people insane. You know, every time somebody goes and shoots up a school or tries to take a shot at a politician, it's like, it's obviously their Telegram channels or whatever that's driving them to do it. And I don't see how that's not a literalization of the internet's driving people insane. So I appreciate it conceptually. My issue comes down to the fact that most of the movie just relies on him talking about it. and so,
it's an expositional thing.
And so I'm not an enemy or anything, or I'm not one of these people that's always like, you know, I don't like this movie because it doesn't show. I think that's bullshit. I think it's especially bullshit when somebody's referring to it with a short story. It's always something when I was taking writing workshops and stuff, people would be like, your language is good, Aaron, but it's you're telling and you're not showing. I'm like, it's a story. Like I'm not showing anything. It's words on a page. What are you talking about? Like, you're not watching these people do these things, right? I'm telling you about it and you're imagining in your head. So I don't know if you understand the concept. Movies, I get it a little bit more, but I enjoy a lot of talking movies and, theatrical movies, etc. I love Cronenberg, right? And lots of Cronenberg's people in rooms talking at each other. But so much of its visceral effect seems to rely like it puts everything in its impact into the ability to convey it just through the telling until it finally spills over into the studio, right at the inevitable climax. But it's so, in my mind, it's too little too late, and it's the kind of thing of being like, this would be a great radio play. I'm kind of confused as to why you decided to tell this story on film.
Yeah.
If you're going to withhold so much of it, it's like, you can cut to these sequences. I can understand for the first half of the movie, play the slow burn thing and just have it coming in. But like, once you have an opportunity, the only answer I can have there beyond some kind of miscalculated artistic decision is you just didn't have the budget for it. And being a Canadian movie, that's probably true.
That's probably true.
But it's, Bruce McDonald's an interesting director, and he's done a lot of different genres within Canadian cinema. But like, maybe he's just, I don't know. I don't know if he has the chops to pull that off, or didn't want to, or just completely was disinterested in it. And so it's one of those movies where I'm like, I like thinking about it. And I know, like I'm a fan of like Chapo Trapos and stuff, and they're big fans of that movie. They talk about it all the time. Will Menaker, and I was like, maybe I should give it another shot. But all my memories of it are being basically like, I like the components of it, but the experience of watching it, I was like pretty underwhelmed once we turned into the second half.
Well, and to be completely fair, the screenwriter is the author of the book, and so he strikes me as a talkie kind of guy, like a talkie kind of screenwriter. And so, I mean, if you ever read the novel it's based on, it's even weirder, and it is very talky as well. So I could see that just being more of a screenwriter problem than anything. Did you know the backstory on some of development on that movie?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, do you know anything about the TV show, the Apple TV show Voices? I think it's called Voices. So
I thought it was called Calls.
Calls. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I know very little about almost any Apple TV shows aside from like Mythic Quest.
This was like an early on. Like this is like when it first started, and there's only like 5 shows on it. This was one of them. It was the guy who did Alien Romulus.
Noah Shawley? Fede Alvarez.
Yeah, he did. He was the showrunner on it, and it was basically just stories told through audio with your like radio patterns on the screen.
The waveforms. Yeah.
Waveforms. And a really cool show. Actually, I really liked it. I not every episode worked, but I thought it worked more than it failed. The original movie, the way they had originally tried to sell it to the studio was that. The waveform. The whole movie was in waveform. They couldn't get anyone to buy that for understandable reasons, because no one wants to take that level of experiment and try to make money off of it. But they did make a radio play off of it for, I think it was BBC. And I believe, and I may be wrong on this, but I believe Stephen McHattie returned on the radio play. You can find it. I think you can find it on YouTube and stuff like that. It's really good. It's only like an hour long. But it's all audio. So
if you do decide to revisit it, you might just want to revisit that one. Yeah.
I mean, I'd be curious I haven't caught up with yet, but comparing it to Undertone, which seemed to make minor splashes this past spring.
I finally watched that the other day.
What did you think, Blake?
I thought it was fine.
I really appreciated.
It was good. I mean, I didn't think it was quite the. I don't think I fully understood the splash it made.
It's not the scariest movie you've ever heard.
No.
No. I
I
actually
think Barbarian Sound Studio was the scariest
yeah.
movie I ever heard. But
Barbarian Sound Studio was definitely creepier and understood scarier more. But I was impressed with the sound design, and I'm glad that I saw it in theater undertone. But the story like made absolutely no sense. I don't even remember it at this point. But yeah, it just when it started to kind of go further into that, I it lost me. But sound design was cool. So
did you like Obsession and Backrooms, Aaron?
I mean,
The two big hits of the summer.
yeah, I thought Obsession, like, clearly, I saw it in a packed theater.
Mhm.
I thought it works like pretty well as a audience movie,
Mhm.
but my whole take on it was that, like, if you are older than 19,
Yep.
you probably are like, I've seen literally everything in this movie before, and
Mhm.
it's just like a savvy packaging in that, playing to a very specific audience that
Yeah.
are really anxious and really worried about relationships and etc. and agency and having control over situations and problematic bullshit and all that stuff. So, like, yeah, I applaud Curry Barker for, like, knowing what he's doing,
Mhm.
but
mhm.
I didn't love it. I actually like Backrooms a lot more. Partially because I think the backrooms themselves are just like an awesome cinematic space,
Oh yeah.
and I just wish the whole
Yeah.
movie was in them. But
Yeah.
even in the moments outside them, or some of the dramatic stuff, jumping off like kind of Substack essay you wrote,
Oh yeah.
the
Yeah.
idea of that, like, it's one of the rare A24 movies where it seems to say that therapy is actually a bad thing in some
Yes.
scenarios, because it's navel gazing and it allows people to live in their own trauma as opposed to get over it. And, like,
Yeah.
it positions the whole idea of, like, no, she needs to take the totem of the past and, like, break it and realize that actually all the bad things didn't make you weak. It actually set you up to be stronger for the scenarios that you're facing in your life.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Now, I think viscerally, like I came out of Obsession more stoked about it, mainly because I didn't expect the ending. Like I expected something crazy to happen, but I didn't expect it to be that depressing. And I was like, okay, like that's okay. I'm gonna give you credit. That was a pretty bleak ending. Yeah, but
It goes for the
uh,
jugular, yeah.
yeah, it does.
Mhm.
And I think I wanted more backrooms and the backrooms. I was like, actually, if you just like done, I've heard that the Exit 8 movie is
Hmm.
a lot more kind of like what I would want from backrooms, where it's just literally a guy like trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, Exit 8 it's kind of remarkably restrained in its entire approach, but
I
it's,
haven't
like,
seen
so
it yet, but I
consistent
want to.
within it.
Yeah.
And Exit 8 does some really cool visual stuff of, like, essentially looping the shots in ways that seem
Nice.
impossible, but it's like you can tell that they're just doing, like, little in-camera tricks.
That's cool.
Mm.
So it's you get a very claustrophobic sense when watching that movie of, like, okay, I don't really understand how you can get out of here. Backrooms, I just wanted to explore it, which I actually had a nobody ever wants to hear about dreams, but I had a very weird, vivid dream after Backrooms of, like, exploring Backrooms. I was like, okay, there's something here, some weird liminal space he's tapping into that's
Yep.
actually potent.
Oh, for sure.
I
Jameson
think,
actually said something similar about Obsession that you stated that like
yeah,
didn't you say something to the effect of like there's a certain element of it that like just my age range it
yeah.
didn't connect.
I think I was kind of aged out of connecting with some of it, but I did end up liking Obsession a little bit more than Backrooms. I think Backrooms does a thing where it gets too lore for me, where like at the end, like when Mark Duplass shows up and is like explaining like all of
Yeah.
the stuff. I kind of zone out at that. Speaking of talking too much, I don't know. I just think it's hard for me to like comprehend all of these other ideas when I'm not being shown them. And that just reminds me of internet rabbit holes that I don't have time for. But 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 I did really enjoy Backrooms when I was in it. And it sounds like I would really enjoy Exit 8. But yeah, so I missed that one.
Aaron, what's the most forgettable movie you've seen this year?
Oh, new movie.
Can you remember?
I know it's like a trick
The
question.
correct answer is I've forgotten.
I'm racking my brains. I don't know. I don't watch movies I don't think I'm gonna like anymore for the most part.
That's fair.
I was actually gonna ask your son, right? Your son, 14 months. How have you seen your movie watching or movie consuming habits change?
I mean, I can only watch it when he's asleep, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I'm just trying to instead of watching TV or less sports or things like that. Like last year, I watched a lot of baseball because the Jays went to the Game 7 of the World Series, so I was really caught up in that. But I watched a lot of World Cup because it's just fun whenever it comes around every 4 years. But I don't watch much baseball or basketball anymore unless it's my team in the playoffs kind of thing. And TV, I have to ask myself, would I really rather watch this episode of a show just to be in on some discourse that I'm not really going to be in the conversation on, or should I just go watch an old movie that I'm going to feel better about having seen?
So basically what
6
you're
months
telling me
later
is you haven't caught up on The Bear.
No, I haven't.
Me neither. And I probably won't, honestly.
I will at some point. My wife is a huge fan of The Bear. Like, obsessed with it.
Theory more than practice.
Has your
wife I like it less.
Finished it?
Yeah,
my
wife
destroyed
it.
Yeah, just finished it. So, and I stopped at like season 3, but I got the recap from my wife. So
I feel like after you have Jamie Lee Curtis on a season, like you might as well just end the show because you're pretty much like you've nailed it. So, I mean,
The Bear is like I haven't caught up with House of the Dragon either, but I was a pretty big Game of Thrones fan. I read all the books and stuff, and I liked the first 2 seasons well enough to be interested in watching the new season.
Mm-hmm.
Partially because it seems like they finally get to the war that they've teased about for 2 seasons. But I find those are like the 2 examples of shows where I admire all the like individual elements quite a bit, and actually like I'm pretty thrilled watching them when I'm actually watching them. But I have huge frustrations with the structure because I just like The Bear. It's like 30-minute episodes, 32 minutes, 37 minutes, maybe a 48-minute episode.
Yeah.
And you're just like, why can't you just do a consistent length? I really don't get it. It's like, well, the characters demand us to open up the structure. I'm like, but you understand structure is not a limiter. It frees you up because if you have this framework, this skeleton you can build things on, and you're giving people certain dramatic beats or exposition at moments than they're expecting it, you are no longer like knocking yourself. You're not like tripping over yourself to try to deliver certain elements. Those are expected, so you can actually dig in far deeper on the other things. And so my whole thing with The Bear is like, the show is really well acted and really compelling in a lot of ways, but I also think it really, really personifies more than almost any TV show the idea that like you just wanted to make a movie, but you wrote a script that was too damn long. And so you decided that the best way to approach it is just to cut your script up into 8 or 10 components. And I'm like, that's not what TV is. TV is, it's supposed to be something. Yes, it's literally supposed to be something episodic. And I love The Sopranos and I love Deadwood and stuff, but like those understood it too.
Well, and I think you get into a problem too, where if your story works best as a movie, kind of as a fixed length in that sense, and then you decide to break it up, you're eventually going to have episodes of filler. And I definitely think The Bear falls into that in some cases where there's just a couple places where it's like, okay, maybe you didn't need this week, or maybe you didn't need this half of this episode. So, but yeah.
Yeah, the Ayo Edebiri character is like the perfect example of, she is so frustrating because if Christopher Storer, the showrunner, head writer, or whatever, was actually beholden to structure, like classic television structure, he'd understand that there's no excuse to continue delaying really obvious conflicts that need to be resolved. That like this should have been resolved in an episode, and you turned it into 8 episodes of a season. where it's like a character just can't express themselves. I'm like, that's not compelling enough. And you've used all the tricks of cinematic verbiage to make it compelling in the moment, but then you take a step back and you're like, oh no, in an episode of the X-Files, that would have been resolved in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And
No.
and people would be like, oh, the X-Files is, there's bad episodes of the X-Files. I'm like, yeah, there are, because there's 25 episodes a season, but like an average episode of the X-Files is like stupendously crafted.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so tight as a story.
Yeah.
And they can do more with less.
Yeah.
Did you ever get into Yellow Jackets at all?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I watched the first season and I liked it well enough, but then as it went on, you had the same problem where these characters, their conflicts just kept looping back around, and literally you would see a new episode, but it would be the same exact situations, almost same exact characters, beat for beat, and I just had to stop because I was like, no, I can't spend this time. So
Yeah, I will finish it. It's not that long, and at some point I will have time to and the desire to do it. But that, and then like House of the Dragon is just the one where the first season, I don't know if you watch it all, but like episode 6 or whatever, it like jumps forward 10 years. And I was like, why would you structure one season of a TV show where you have that massive of a time jump, and it's not played as a twist like, BSG and whatever the second last episode of BSG, where you have that awesome dolly trucking out shot of of Gaius Baltar is like giving his speech, and you realize a year has passed, and you're like, oh man, okay, the whole situation has changed in a way that I didn't expect. Instead, it's more just like, oh well, we're so true to the source material, we can't either extend the 6 episodes into 10, because that's not how it's written in the George R. R. Martin like history novel Fire and Blood, but we also can't like just make 2 shorter seasons. Or I'm like, couldn't you, like, I just don't understand how you couldn't resolve this. Like you're making like $100 million season of TV, and you just don't fundamentally realize that you're shooting yourself in the foot by not having a clear structure, like blueprint. Like, I understand you're playing to fans that expect certain things. They don't want you cutting out of the material so much, but also like, why do you keep delaying the elements of the show that actually draw people to this kind of stuff, which is like, give me the dragons on screen, give me the big battles, give me the like backstabbing in the like 9th episode, somebody gets brutally murdered that I didn't expect.
Yeah, because that would happen on Game of Thrones almost every season. Like one of the major remaining characters would get axed, but in like the second to last or the last episode of each season, it seemed like.
Well, that's a classic HBO thing, right? Like going back to The Wire, you get second last episode of the first season with Wallace, and then you get, which it's crazy. Michael B. Jordan's just like such a massive star now.
Yeah, no. I love him. Great. I didn't watch The Wire until like, I don't know, 3 years ago. Again, my wife decided to pick it up, and yeah, that was a lot of fun to be like, wait, that's Michael B. Jordan, and then the heartbreak after that plays out. So yeah,
and then it gives you the nice "Where's Wallace" in your lexicon. Where's Wallace? Oh. Where's Wallace?
Yeah.
Yeah, while y'all were lusting after Michael B. Jordan, I was over there with Idris Elba. So
I want you to put the word out. We back up.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So Aren, you are here to school us some more on Canadian cinema. So have you gotten any further into how you're going to approach like any kind of like experiment or project dealing with Canadian cinema? Because I know that we talked about this the last time. No, I wanted to do something with it.
No, it's true. I want to make some kind of definitive whatever series trying to explore Canadian cinema as its own unique thing, because I feel like it never gets treated on its own terms, even in like a historical exploration. It's always comparative or gets cut up into these kind of little niches, whether it's French Canadian cinema or immigrant cinema, indigenous cinema, etc. And there's not really this kind of cohesive story. And I feel like in the last year and a half, 2 years, basically since Trump started talking about Canada as the 51st state, and then Mark Carney rode that to a pretty massive electoral upset as our prime minister, this idea of what is Canadian has been so central to like Canadian life again, and it's always something that's been there in the past. It was first you're not British, and then now it's you're not American. It's Canadians are defined by, it's a negative definition. It's not a positive one. There's no defining attributes, and even the Margaret Atwood kind of famous essay Survival, which is all about Canadian literary devices, and that Canadian fiction and the character is all about the garrison mentality of you're putting up you're building a civilization that has to withstand the harshness of the climate and the context, and that defines the scenario. So again, it's the people are not defined by like what they do; they're defined by what they withstand.
Gotcha.
And so for Canadian identity, it's about we're withstanding American hegemony, right? Withstanding this idea that people seem to sometimes loosely throw around as if it's a positive thing, and I don't think it is, because I think it's kind of erasing, but it's just like, oh, you're basically American. It's like, well, we're in the shadow of America, so we are really, really influenced by American culture, but like Canadians are not the same as Americans just because we speak English as well.
Yeah.
There's a lot of niceties there, but so there's a long way of saying I think there's a fertile moment right now, and so I still keep kicking this around. I'm just trying to think of what's the best way to go about it. My dream would to be make some kind of 10-part kind of documentary on YouTube or something, like a video essay exploring Canadian film history and like zeroing in on certain films that seem to capture those moments that also build into this kind of larger idea that Canadian cinema is specifically defined by the fact that it's constantly searching for its own sense of what Canadian cinema is, and that the characters themselves seem to be navigating a very kind of like Joey and Pete in the movie. They're unsure. There's no real foundation there. They're constantly searching for something more, and it's not an idea of like the American dream. It's not that. It's the Canadian dream is more nebulous and more mundane, but also seems to be completely, like, we all know the American dream is a myth, but there are people who become super rich in America out of nothing. Like, it is a thing. You can't deny that if you want the best chance of any place in the world to hit the jackpot at the casino, it's America. It's built in such a way to allow that. Canada doesn't really have that. We have tall poppy syndrome, right? You want to cut down the poppies if they grow too high, because it makes all the rest of you look bad. Or banish them to the States, like a James Cameron or a Norman Jewison back in the 70s. So yeah, I would like to maybe do some kind of documentary approach. My biggest worry there is I'm so concerned about YouTube, like the AI censorships, like basically just like flagging things as copyright violations when they're not, or when they're like criticism should be outside of that use. But you never know. I have this kind of unfinished David Cronenberg video essay that grew way too big, where I was like the first like just intro was like way too in depth, and like I had so much footage going into it, and then I was just like, I don't think there's any way I could ever even post this on YouTube, so I'm not gonna continue this if nobody can see it. But yeah, maybe there's some other way there.
You could send it to us and we could see it.
Aaron, I was gonna say, Aaron said no one could see it. If he sends it to us, I don't know if that's going to increase the number of people that can see it. Maybe by 2, but you know.
I mean, the best way would be to get like the CBC to throw me a tiny amount of funds, but the main thing is that allow me access to their archives, which are like insane. Like the CBC is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, and it's the public broadcaster, is the Canadian version of the BBC. It's radio and it's television. And kind of similar to the BBC, they have just absurd archives of like everything throughout visual Canadian history.
What is the process of getting access to that archive?
I mean, you'd have to sell them on, and the issue is that right now, all the people that control all the production through CBC are very fixated on the idea of like monetization. So they're, even though part of their mandate is actually like preserving Canadian cultural heritage, that's like literally half of it. It's not supposed to be like make a profit. It's supposed to be like, you are the federal foundation essentially to ensure that Canadian culture remains distinct and giving avenues for Canadian filmmakers and stuff and artists and musicians to showcase their work despite it not making money, they seem nowadays to be like, can we just make a B version of the show that plays on NBC?
Mm,
It's like, we need to make a Canadian NCIS. And it's like, no, you really don't.
no. It's because the regular ones aren't that great.
But it's also like, at best, you'll just make an episode of NCIS that is 1/10 the budget and not
Yeah.
set in
Yeah.
California or New York or whatever, or New
do
Orleans.
South Park.
Paul Gross. I saw Paul Gross on stage last year. That was interesting.
Is he?
I feel-
Is he still doing comedy, like stand up and all that?
No, it was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, him and his wife
Oh,
playing
wow.
the lead roles.
Holy
He was
shit.
really good,
Okay.
actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
But he's got his
Yeah.
white hair now, and he's very serious. He's like in his thespian phase.
Okay. Hey, I am all for that.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah, he is. He is.
That almost the way you described kind of the CBC wanting to just make these knockoffs feels very much like the 1990s Christian music ghetto, where like you have these bands that were popping up that were just kind of answers to other secular bands, and it really wrecked the I guess a whole Christian music industry. I think we're still like trying to like shed that. Like I say I don't know why I still take ownership of that. But
I mean, we all should.
I mean,
yeah, that's true. I don't know.
my favorite band from the 90s Christian rock era is Delirious, and they're totally just the Christian version of Oasis and Blur. Like,
Yeah.
Mhm. I used to listen to
Absolutely.
Delirious. Yep. Yeah, whenever you think about the CCM, you're like, oh, so it's not actually about getting the gospel out there. Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess they had the same
Why didn't you say
realization.
that?
Can't we just make a little money,
Yeah.
No, and I get it. I have this whole theory about, like, so with Canadian, like, I don't almost blame the CBC for their approach, because they're always losing money, and it's like they always need a way to justify themselves as its own like self-perpetuating system, and not just be so reliant on the Liberal Party winning the elections, because the Conservative Party always threatens to cut them off. Every time they win, they'll like decrease all the funding, and then the Liberals will push it back up. And so they kind of de facto become a bit of a liberal engine in terms of their political stuff. But like their most recent, some of their shows it'll be like Family Feud Canada with Jerry D. And I'm like, this is what we're putting like Canadian dollars for? Like, because it's, everybody in your taxes, every single individual in Canada pays a little bit, that like if you broke it down on line items, you're giving some money to CBC.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just baffling that that's what they want to do, when I think they should take much more of a systematic and really rigorous kind of overhaul approach, similar to what South Korea did in the late 90s and early 2000s, where South Korea exists in the shadow of Japan in the way that Canada does to the USA. Obviously, they were actually colonized by Japan. Canada was not colonized by the USA, maybe culturally colonized, but it's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And South Korea made this kind of really intense decision within their public funding, where they're like, we need to zero in on something that we can define. So we're going to make really strict rules within our own broadcasting and within our own theatrical distribution, that like guaranteeing a certain amount of it has to be Korean, and it can't be like a Korean Japanese production or a Korean Chinese production or something. It has to be just Korean.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to ensure that people actually have an opportunity to see Korean film and TV shows and stuff. But then we also are trying to understand what is that Korea does that Japan or China or the USA doesn't do as well, or is not definably Korean. And so it's like they zeroed in very much on this, what we all think of now as kind of like K-drama or K-horror or thrillers, right? It's the whole Bong Joon-ho, Park Chan-wook, Kim Ji-yoon kind of like approach. And it's we would have never gotten all these amazing films from those filmmakers if this country didn't realize that, like, okay, we're not going to really green light something if it seems like a ripoff of an American film or a Japanese film, but we think that we can like completely own this at one avenue of this genre, and we're just going to like throw all our money at this. And then
they're successful because then America took their ideas and made adaptations of them.
No, exactly.
Like,
but then it blossomed out, right? It's not like
exactly.
it's not like Korean cinema's just thrillers.
Yeah, no, it's got
I mean,
all sorts of stuff. Yeah,
I mean, last year one of the biggest movies was K-pop Demon Hunters. So like, I love the story that you're telling. I've never thought about it in that way. That it started with this kind of cultural decision to safeguard, what is Korean culture, and from that you could draw this through line to K-pop Demon Hunters, which I mean, there's better things than just that, but like
but
the
it's
fact
good.
that it captured
a lot.
like the entire world's imagination, and,
Yeah.
that's kind of cool.
And the danger of Canadian cinema is that K-pop Demon Hunters is technically a Canadian movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
Made by the director went to the same school as me, Sheridan College. So like,
son of a...
no, she was in the animation program, which Sheridan has one of the world-renowned animation programs that basically at the graduation ceremony, Pixar and DreamWorks just show up and will like poach people right out of the graduation. That's why it's like so insanely competitive to try and get into it. So that's sweet. But it's also like, when you watch K-pop Demon Hunters, this is a bit of the Canadian cultural identity thing of, the challenges of us being we're not a boiling pot or a melting pot. We're a multicultural country, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're a tapestry. We're a mosaic. And so you take something like K-pop Demon Hunters and you're like, what is definably Canadian about this? And you're like, not much. But we have a lot of Korean Canadians, right? Like,
yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I did not realize it was Canadian, but that sounds about right. Yeah, man. I came up with a name for your documentary though. If you ever do,
yeah.
It's called "Leaving the Garrison."
That's good. It might be a little too. It's not very SEO friendly. I'll say that. But
fuck SEO.
No, it's true. That would be good. That's actually very similar to some essays, kind of response essays to Atwood. But...
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I've read zero Atwood. I know of her from the adaptations more than anything else. So, is she a tall poppy?
Probably. I mean, she's one of the few that people didn't cut down. I think partially because of I don't know. There's some kind of cultural feminist bona fides there.
Okay. Gotcha.
But people within the cultural community, I would say you have like a 50% of them hate her pretty furiously because she uses her position to tell her opinion, which is, and sometimes her opinion is outrageous or a lot of people disagree with it. And I respect the fact that she'll just be like, no, I'm not going to like budge on this. I think this. and people will be like outraged because she has that platform that is not afforded most Canadian artists.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Go ahead, Jameson.
I was just going to ask. If Matt Johnson is on his way to becoming a tall poppy, or is he already there?
I mean, he might be. I was literally saying. So, the Matt Johnson stuff's so weird to me because like I know so many people that were like his students at York University, where he does like adjunct film professorship and stuff, and his studio, which is the like house basically where they live in the Nirvana the band the show TV series, was like pretty close to where I used to live, so I would see him out and about sometimes. And like once when I was filming like a web series, he like walked by with some of his buddies and just kind of stopped and like watched us filming for a bit and then like continued on his way and stuff. Matt Johnson is definitely, I think, like probably at the forefront now of Canadian cinema, or he's the it guy right at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny because what he does is incredibly Canadian, but he also has a showmanship that is like very not the Canadian way of approaching things. Even his whole like on the street faking stuff is it's it's Sacha Baron Cohen. It's It's Steve Coogan as Alan Partridge and all that kind of stuff. It's that kind of shameless showmanship, which Canadians don't like drawing attention to themselves because they feel so insecure because they don't have the identity to stand up. And he pushes through that and is like, "Oh, I'm just playing a character, and that's going to allow me the whatever confidence or the impulse to like really create bold art, which is not particularly Canadian in my mind." Funny story. So I've been watching. I don't know if it's funny. I think it's hilarious. But I was
We'll be the judge of that.
so Nirvana the band, the show, the TV series that the movie is based on, an extension of, that played on Viceland television in like the no longer existing Viceland TV channel in 2017. So the 4th episode of the first season is called The Blind Side, and what it is that Matt and Jay go to the premiere of The Force Awakens in Toronto. And as this, I had never watched the show until it recently landed on Disney Plus. And so I'm watching it and I'm like, I was at that premiere. I wonder what's going to happen here. And then the scenes start happening and I started like flashing back, similar to in the show and in the movie as well, where they do the black and white flashbacks in like the slow motion of like having the epiphanies. And as the episode starts playing, they start making a scene in the theater because Matt is like temporarily blind while going to see it. So Jay is like describing things to him and like reading the crawl out to him and like secretly filming the actual stuff like in like a surreptitious camera. And obviously they didn't tell anybody at the theater they're doing this. And I was like, oh shit. Like I was at that screening. And so the guys who are in my recollection of watching Force Awakens opening night was I thought there was just the 2 assholes making a huge scene who got kicked out. And I realized that it was Matt Johnson and Jay McCarroll. And the most hilarious thing is that there's actually a shot in the show. I'm not in it because I went to the bathroom, but my wife and my brother are just in the background, right? Like 2 rows behind them, just sitting there in the episode. I was like, I'm in this episode, but also like this completely now reframes my whole experience of I thought these like weird nerds were just being bizarre for the first 10 minutes of the movie. But it was all just a TV show.
That's incredible. That's
almost like that has the kind of a style of like Joaquin Phoenix on David Letterman when he was filming I'm Not Here.
Yeah.
No, that's.
I mean, I'm sorry your Force Awakens experience got ruined.
No, it wasn't ruined.
So they could make this show, but yeah.
I mean, actually, I would have been more pissed that I went to the bathroom whenever they shot that scene.
No, I'm serious. Now I'm just like, I see the gap between my wife and my brother, and I'm like, I'm supposed to be right there, top right frame.
Be there.
Which brother is this?
Is Anton?
Okay.
Yeah, because he was living in Toronto at the time.
Okay.
But yeah, my wife is the one who's most, and last night I was watching it and she was like getting ready for bed and I like went up and like knocked on the door and I'm like, you're on the TV right now. She's like, what? And I brought her downstairs. She was like baffled. Like,
what? They didn't get my signature for that.
Anyways, Matt Johnson, I admire that stuff so much, but it's just, he plays with reality in ways that are clearly throwing me for a loop now, but there's nothing I think particularly Canadian about that approach.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of plays into these biopics he's doing. Like the fact that he's got the new Tony one coming out, where I hear really good things about it. Similar to Blackberry was way better than anybody had any. Nobody expected Blackberry to be really good.
Yeah,
I was actually going to ask about the whole Tony. Like, I think we brought this up on the last episode or the episode before last, whether or not Matt Johnson sold out when he's doing Tony. And I was like, I don't know. That's an interesting question. What does Matt Johnson selling out look like? That's what I want to know.
I mean, you got to see what the next movie he does, right?
Yeah,
I feel like that determines a lot.
I mean,
it could be the next Thor movie.
Yeah, I think the fact that he did make, although Nirvana the band, the show, the movie was probably, I don't know the timelines, but between Blackberry and Tony, you've got this really weird, you can't really claim it's a sellout movie.
So
thing that came out.
In
Yeah.
Nirvana, the band that showed the movie, the whole climax where they're trying to jumpstart it, like Back to the Future, and they have the pole coming down from the CN Tower to go into the van. That whole sequence at Queen and Spadina in Toronto was filmed on, I think, November 25th, 2024, which was one of the nights that Taylor Swift was playing in Toronto. She had a 6-show engagement, and he specifically picked that because the majority of the police would be near the Rogers Center, the Jays Stadium, where she was playing, so that it would be much less likely for the cops to show up to interrupt his guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah.
I'm just glad to know someone used Taylor Swift. So,
Hey, but apparently the Taylor Swift concerts brought in way more money than the World Cup to Toronto. So,
wow. Well, that's not surprising, honestly. No. I mean, considering how much money that lady makes, it's insane. So, Aaron, let's get into the movie. What led you to this movie? Because you said this is basically like considered by most Canadians in the know as like the classic Canadian film.
Yeah, so Canadian cinema, it's divided between French, Canadian, English, or English language, and then documentary. Documentaries kind of traditionally up until the 60s was all Canada made. It's the National Film Board. So you have movies like Robert Flaherty's Nanook of the North, which is not technically Canadian, but it's like shooting in northern Canada, etc. And then you have all these very like nature documentaries, cultural documentaries, fly on the wall stuff. Then you get into the late 50s, early 1960s, you get like Alan King's verite cinema, specifically like his true verite documentary style of like completely unobtrusive, no talking heads. The camera is like essentially invisible. That leads into the whole Maisels and all the stuff into the States. It's really influential in terms of the documentary scene. But you didn't really have fiction until you get the 50s. You get some French Canadian works come out, and then you get Claude Jutra and those filmmakers like mon uncle Antoine and things like that kind of builds up this reputation within French Canadian cinema. And that's considered the kind of artistic fictional avenue. It's almost like the literary storytelling. Canadian English language Canadian film didn't really have any of that. And so Donald Shabib was this filmmaker working for the CBC in the 60s and doing documentaries, had a documentary background, kind of was a curmudgeon even as a young man. When he made this, he had gone to UCLA and he just came out, and he's one of the people that he would meet producers, and if he found out the producer did like a TV show episode that he thought was bad, he would just get in an argument with them instead of pitching it to him, and he like burnt a lot of bridges and stuff. But so he finally gets the money to make this. Started as a documentary. It was supposed to be called The Maritimers, and it's supposed to be because he's originally from Nova Scotia, which Joey and Pete in the movie are from, and he's from Cape Breton, which is kind of a popular tourist spot. It's the gorgeous cliffs of the Bay of Fundy and these kind of very windswept, almost Irish-looking cliffs with that. I've never actually been to the Maritimes, so I'm just speaking off of cultural iconography. But so he comes to Toronto and he's like, yeah, I know I have these cousins, I have these friends and stuff that have moved here, and they can't make work, and I feel like there's a story here, documentary-wise, changed into fiction filmmaking, and it kind of basically it becomes the first important Canadian movie that actually gets a bit of a cultural pull. And I think that part of it is that it's coming right on the edge. And speaking of dealing with American cinema, it's kind of coming out right on the edge of the Easy Rider and these other American, new Hollywood has just burst onto the scene, specifically these kind of idea of road movies, independent cinema, movies that break the rules, that they combine documentary and fiction, that they're not asking for permits, and within the Canadian context, most Canadian productions up to that point had been, like there's a television production of like Hamlet at Elsinore, and it's like Christopher Plummer on like an hour and a half CBC production of doing Hamlet at the actual castle back in like in Denmark or whatever. And then it would be like a filmed Macbeth version, or it's Canada in Canadian artistic circles. There's the Stratford Festival. It's a small town in Ontario, and it has this. It's kind of one of the biggest Shakespearean festivals outside of England, and so Canadian actors always have this kind of Shakespearean not low rent, but like the B side to the the British Shakespeare Company, right? And so they speak in those mid-Atlantic accents. Even somebody like William Shatner comes out of this, coming out of the Quebec, the Montreal, the Anglophone Montreal, like Shakespearean scene. And so all these actors have this like very theatrical quality to it. And so he hits right at this point where people seem to have this appetite for unadorned, like risky, edgy cinema, but also is filling the gap for like English language Canadian cinema, but also the kind of social realist dramas that start to trickle out into the 70s, and also going against theatricality, Shakespeareanism, this kind of mid-Atlantic. It's I don't want to criticize it as like pretentious, but there's an errors. It's arts of errors. It's like trying to be more than it is, and so it becomes this kind of countercultural film for a moment. And I don't want to make it out that like Going Down the Road was a hit. The hits didn't exist in Canada. Like until David Cronenberg Shivers in '75, I don't think a Canadian movie made over like $1 million at the box office.
So it was Shivers. Yeah. Was the first time?
Or I think Shivers was definitely the highest grossing Canadian movie ever when it came out in '75, and I think it made like 2.5 million or something on like a very small budget. But yeah, there was no expectation of making money. But this, it got panned in the New York Times. And then Roger Ebert famously saw it when he was like 27, early in his period of being the new Sun-Times critic, and spoke about like, no, this is shockingly a Canadian movie that is actually in the tradition of Easy Rider and all these other kind of great road movies about down in your luck people. And then, also playing into the British kitchen sink dramas, and right. It just seems to be like Canada's answer to a cinematic tradition that was just really lifting off. And then it just became this cultural touchstone within Canadian arts institutions. So you have all these decade polls of, it's like 74 and then 84, 92, etc. when they were like polling what are the best Canadian movies. And this movie starts showing up really high on the list to the point where it like tops it in the 80s and 90s as like the best Canadian movie ever made. And even now, it might not be something that people watch the way that they do a Cronenberg or even Jesus of Montreal or some of the other kind of Canadian movies of the 70s and 80s, but it has that reputation of basically the like text of English Canadian cinema.
Okay.
Like I don't think we would have Canadian cinema in the way it exists without this movie.
That's fascinating. Wow, I did not know like all of that context, and it's so interesting to hear you talk about it. Because just to be completely honest, I'm not Canadian. I had never heard of this movie, and so really, I was very interested, especially because you also gave us this link to the Second City TV. Kind of recap of the movie in a sense, like pseudo spoof, but also very, very faithful to the story in a sense. And so, I was wondering what the cultural relevance of this was and kind of how it existed. And so hearing you say like it didn't make a lot of money initially, but it embedded itself into the Canadian psyche, so much so that these comedy shows were referencing it big time. So,
but the joke is that the SCTV parody with John Candy and Joe Flaherty has definitely been seen way more than Going Down the Road. That's the weird tension, right? It's like Going Down the Road. This really summarizes the Canadian artistic history. Is like, how can the greatest Canadian movie of an era also be a movie that Canadians don't really watch? And that like kind of that sums up that ultimate nebulous searching at the center of Canadian cinematic identity is like we watch American cinema more than we watch Canadian cinema, and even when we engage with our own historical cinema that's really important, we don't really almost know what to make of it. It's funny because it's a movie centered on Toronto, right? It's these two men hitting the road, leaving their terrible jobs or no jobs from Nova Scotia in the Maritimes, which is in the context this is taking place after like the fisheries have really washed up. Like the cod supplies have dropped, and there's just way less fishing than there used to be. So like the Maritimes are going through like an economic depression at this
And
period.
just to clarify, they weren't surgeons or lawyers in the movie, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, they got jobs for lawyers like us out there.
Yeah. And surgeons?
Yeah, doctors and lawyers, lots out there.
Wow.
There's Jasper Avenue. You can walk there at 11 p.m. at night. No, it's this period where it's like economic depression. So they hit the road to Toronto, which at this point had not quite become the biggest city in Canada. Montreal is still slightly larger, and until the I don't know how much you guys know about any history between Quebec and the rest of Canada, but Quebec has had 2 referendums to leave Canada, and both of those they voted against it, but on very narrow margins. And one of those was in the 70s, and at that time, right prior to it, Montreal used to be the head of all Canadian banking, and all the banks got spooked, and they all moved down the road, all down the St. Lawrence to Toronto. And so Montreal became this kind of artistic kind of city frozen in the 70s, and Toronto became like, that's the city of the future. And so at that point, you get the CN Tower gets constructed, then you get the Blue Jays show up, and then you get like Toronto really like grows and grows and grows and becomes the metropolis of Canada. And now it's one of like the biggest metro centers in North America. So it's still big even by anybody's standards. It's not just like Canadian standards. But Toronto is also notorious for being a city that like paves over its past and just like eliminates anything from the past. So it's so fitting about a movie that uses Toronto as this emblem of the promise of tomorrow, that it itself has almost been like paved over within our own cultural identity and history and knowledge. And so you need to unearth it like you do like a beautiful old train station in Toronto, or a heritage building that's going to be knocked over some glass monstrosity that nobody ever lives in, but it needs for some investor to sell 10,000 condo units or whatever. Like,
Well, I mean, I could just be speaking out of turn, but I believe Jameson and I have the same amount of Canadian historical knowledge, and that is of the Northwest, and we only learned that last year around August. So, now I feel like, and I believe I sent you a message about this on Discord after I watched the movie, is that like I got strong like loneliness of a long distance runner vibes, like you said, kitchen sink dramas of Britain, angry young man films.
Mm-hmm.
I told you that like the whole movie I was just waiting for someone to snap.
yeah.
But it was so surreal because it happens and it is violent. But what's the first thing they do afterwards? They call the cops and say, "Hey, there's a guy."
Yeah.
Where it wouldn't happen. That would not happen on a British film.
No.
They would just kill somebody and run away, and that's it. So they're even like I found that almost like metatextually humorous, and that even Canadians are known as very cordial, kind people.
Yeah. We're polite to a fault.
Yeah, exactly. And like even to this point, like they've committed this like horrendous like beating.
Violence, yeah.
And they still, the first thing they do, call the cops and say, "Hey, you need to go check on this guy."
Yeah, you got to go to the Loblaws parking lot. This guy's really hurt.
I just found that fascinating. And it doesn't take away from like the visceral element in that when it happens, because especially when you know that they're going to the grocery store, they've concocted this plan to steal the food.
It's the dumbest plan like, too. It's so good.
It's so bad.
Well, I was
like at that point, I'm like,
I'll go help them carry it out.
They're going to snap. Something's going to happen at this point. Something will happen, and this is going because we're 20 minutes out or 15 minutes out from the end of the movie. Like something has to. This tension cannot be prolonged.
No,
because the tension is palpable through the whole movie.
But you see, I find that moment like so perfect for why this movie captures Canadiana so well to me, because again, it's in contrast to British and American stories. So in British stories, it would be either the character the classic angry young man movie where it boils over to a point where either they have to obliterate their shame violently, either externally or internally, right?
Yep.
They either kill themselves or die in some stupid mishap, or they kill their dad, or they kill somebody at their workplace, or their
Yep.
wife or whatever, girlfriend. There's some kind of violent altercation which reestablishes the order, but it doesn't. It only erases the discontent through some kind of like self-abdicate, like
Yeah.
self-erasure, right? American cinema of that sort, either the character would triumph over the adversity and you'd get a happy ending that's not realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would achieve something that somehow it exists as a means of pulling you further into the fantasy of being like, no, it is possible. It is possible. Or you get the ending of Easy Rider where like the system crushes the individual, right?
Mhm.
In some way, shape, or form, that this kind of the violence that's being done would be done upon the character, not necessarily the character upon someone else, unless it's just like a Western in which they would mete out the violence and then kind of self-exile as, a means of like restoring order as this kind of moral, just, a Shane type scenario.
Mhm.
But Canadian is that you have the violence come out. You have this kind of explosion of the frustration, but it's not directed at anybody who actually has anything to do with the circumstance. It's a bystander. It's somebody who simply is in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they have no actual ill will towards the person. It's just there needs to be some kind of outlet, and then they immediately diffuse it and try and avoid any of the consequences to try to re-establish the like mundane scenario in which they found themselves in. So it's like they don't do any of this to actually like achieve anything greater than their scenario before. It's just like at the best they can hope for is that they leave Toronto, head out on the road to Vancouver, and end up in the exact same situation they've been dealing with in Toronto. And like that's the whole thing, right? It's like there's all this talk in the movie of, we could have had this job back home. We could have done this. I did that back in, but no, you didn't do it for $80 a week, did you? But it's still, I lifted boxes there, and the whole amazing speech where it's Pete telling Joey with the bottles, like each day we carry these many crates, and these many crates have these many bottles, and how many, it means that at this point we've been working here 2 months, we've carried 300,000 bottles. What does that mean? And Joey's just kind of drunkenly being like, well, I don't know. What does it mean? It's like, nothing. That's the point. We've done nothing. That's why I love that scene so much. But that just sums up like there's this, even within the Canadian dream, the dream is so mundane, and they can't really even achieve that. But even in the moment in which they explode against the system or their circumstances, it's not this like grand, heroic, dramatic, or truly like expressive action. It's just this like almost flailing against the system in which they're trying to reestablish the like crappy baseline that they're already living in.
Which is so fascinating because it is a weird sense of like renewal, but it's renewal of mundanity. Like, it's like nothing's changing. It's just that they've now dropped, like they're at -30, and now they've risen back up to like -5 because they're just moving down the road, and they're just like
they're just going down the road. Yeah. It's like embedded into the title of the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
As the Glenn Coburn music constantly lets you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's man. It's man. I really like this movie. I wasn't sure at first. Were the two actors who played Pete and Joey, were they actually actors, or were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he did the casting for them, Doug McGrath, Paul Bradley, and Jane Eastwood, who plays Betsy, they all actually were in the same unit, working under an acting coach in Toronto. I forget his exact name, but he was a student of the Lee Strasberg Actors Studio approach of
nice.
True like method acting, which is really in contrast to the Stratford theatrical Shakespearean style. And so when they came in to audition, they auditioned in the roles and they showed up in costume and stuff. And like apparently Jane Eastwood had her like ridiculous beehive when she showed up to audition. And Donald Shabib in basically one day is like, these are my people. I'm casting all of them simultaneously in the movie.
That's
Wow.
amazing.
Because he really fell into that kind of, John Huston, John Ford approach, which I frankly actually really believe in, which is like 90% of directing is casting. If you just cast the right direct actors, you don't have to worry about them. You just let them do their thing, and you can focus on all the other technical stuff and like just directing their talents in the correct ways. You don't have to reshape them at all. And so yeah, they came in their kind of unadorned approach to everything, but they were actual actors, and Doug McGrath and Jane Eastwood ended up as having good careers. Paul Bradley did not at all. The guy who plays Joey, and he was the one that Shabib loved the most, and kind of in the critical reception and audiences, like he's the character that everybody kind of latched onto because he has such insane, easygoing charisma on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
He seems completely there's no self awareness, but in that like delicious, absolutely opposite of what you expect from an actor. He does not seem like he's aware that this is a movie at any moment.
Well, that's what made me ask the question, is because they all seem very real. Like they feel like real people. It's almost like so Jameson got me to watch the documentary Predators about To Catch a Predator, and then you've got the new movie Oppenheim's new movie, his first fictional foray, and I was like that's a fascinating concept of the documentary and like going into fiction or fictional versions of telling a story for the first time. And part of me wondered, oh well, I wonder if these guys are actually like real maritimers or whatever, because they, especially like Doug McGrath, his look, just his like whole being, like just read like this guy was found on the street. It's like,
well, yeah. I think I told Blake I watched this movie in two parts, and the first time it was hard for me to get into it because Doug McGrath was so angry looking most of the time, and it like psychically was just really like difficult. And then I watched it again, and I actually spent some time like thinking about it and thinking about like the characters, but yeah, no, it was powerful how real they were and seemed. And so I had that same question that Blake had. I have it written down, which was like, were these actors? And so yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Like, so Jane Eastwood ended up on SCTV and like became a pretty well respected and throughout her entire career working actor for Canadian television, mostly in comedy. Doug McGrath is actually in a bunch of other Canadian movies, but always bit parts. I don't know if you've seen Black Christmas. He plays one of the cops. He's the cop that like they're talking to at the station and stuff. Who's like,
that is hilarious.
Who's really kind of stonewalling Margot Kidder and stuff, and like
Bob Clark in general, I love. So
I love Black Christmas. I don't love. I like Black Christmas, and I love his one about the psycho cop who goes nuts, kills everybody. Yep. I don't love Christmas Story.
It's fine. It's one of those that you grow up with, you get tired of it.
Yeah, it's not just didn't align with my Christmas anyway. I didn't celebrate Christmas for a while anyway. But Doug McGrath had a good career. Paul Bradley basically just flamed out after this. Like had no career. So the thing is that Paul Bradley, like, he was probably the most natural of the performers, probably the most charismatic. He was the one that Donald Shabib was really, really obsessed with. Like, this guy can be something, but he was the closest to being Joey. Of the characters, he was the one who was closest to his character. And so he would show up in bit parts later, but the drinking got worse and worse to the point of I think after he, in 75, he auditioned, I think, for Saturday Night Live and was turned down. Kind of inevitably. I don't think he really fit that, Bill Murray era kind of SNL.
Yeah.
That being said, he kind of disappeared from all entertainment after that, and then kind of the next time that any of these people who worked on the movie heard about him, it was just after he had died out west, and he'd kind of just drank himself to death. Like, he would occasionally show. So back when like Doug McGrath would be living in Edmonton for a bit or Calgary and stuff, like he'd be showing up at like 3 a.m. with, kind of drunk or like drinking lighter fluid, things like that. Like kind of a wild man stuff. But it was this kind of sadness of all these people realizing like, damn, Paul, like you're kind of the best of us. You're the guy who had the juice, and he just can never really control himself, which is why you get certain scenes in the movie where, specifically like the wedding scene.
Oh gosh,
where
painful.
He's a bit drunk in the scene, like you can tell.
Yeah,
he's not acting it, because that scene they filmed it at the Legion, which is do you guys have Legion? Yeah, okay, so it's a similar thing, and the way that they needed to fill out the guests in it, and they didn't have a budget. So what happened is Paul Bradley, being kind of similar to Joey, had made friends with a bunch of like guys on Yonge Street in Toronto, and is like, oh, you can come in to be our movie, you get free beer. And they all just ended up drinking way too much, and they're in the background of the scene, which makes it even sadder in the whole scene of like that scene's just heartbreaking in everything. It's the fact that he has to almost apologize for the fact that he's having a wedding because he knocked her up, and like Pete is just so like embarrassed to be there.
Yeah.
Like,
mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want to be there in the first place, and he's just like,
no, he doesn't want them to get married, but he's got to be there for his buddy. And then even the fact after, like, Joey asks him for the $20 because he bought more booze than he can pay for, and it's just but then you get this like little extra textual information in that scene too, and you're like, this becomes even sadder.
Yeah. Damn, that's brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, I kept staring. So I kept staring at Doug McGrath, and I kept getting Joker vibes. We're talking specifically Dark Knight.
It's because he's got the super wide smile.
It's the curl of his cheek around, and I was like, this guy's up to no good. Like from the first moment I saw him, I was like, this guy's gonna be trouble. And it turned out like he's actually the most like level-headed of the two, which is not saying a whole lot, but
well, he's level-headed, but he's the one with the like completely unsatisfied ego, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's also
he is the angry young man.
He's selfish of his friend too, right? He's like, when his friend is like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna peel off," he almost treats it like a divorce in a way. Like, you can't divorce me, you can't marry this other person. Like, we had this plan, we have to do this. Like, what about me? But
yeah. Like even the fact that he forces Joey to leave Nova Scotia at the beginning, right? Like there's that throwaway line of he's like, oh, there's gonna be work at the cannery in 2 weeks, I heard, and it's like, nah, there's no work here, we're going to Toronto.
yeah And even that scene, I think my favorite Joey scene, it was very sad, but it just like was wrenching, and it was really good, was when Paul starts, or Pete starts kind of getting into him, and he immediately like turns on this quiet voice where he's like, oh yeah, I guess, I've been doing a lot of things though. And he's like, just immediately like shrinks. And I just thought it was, I don't know, it was really powerful. And then Betty is like, hey, are you going to let him talk to you like that? But he just kind of continues in this like shrunken voice of himself. But yeah, anyway, just made me sad for them.
Joey is such a like go along to get along guy.
Mm-hmm.
But everything in life, right? It's like, my friend says we should go. I guess, there's a better life down the road. And then, it's not the greatest work, but it's $80 an hour a week. It's not, it's a little bit better. And, is she the girl I always would want to marry? No, but I do love her, and I might as well start a family with her. Why not? Like, it's just at every moment.
There is this quality of like almost admirable quality though, that like he feels, he created this child and he wants to like be there. He doesn't have the ability to like make it all work. It was really sad when you go into their apartment and he starts talking about how he just, I'll pay it back in a couple months. I don't owe anything yet. And you just know immediately this is not going to last 10 more minutes of the film. So,
but that also like captures the moments around the color television Everything
Yeah.
in having with color television captures so much the dynamic between these two friends, right? Like they're best friends, and they're both losers, really, at the end of the day. But they have such different perceptions of their own position, right, with regards to the rest of the society. So you get like the two moments in the movie that are most kind of perceptive about Pete. One is he goes for this advertising interview where the guy's like, you have no reason to have ever applied for this job. And he's like, why? I like TV. I'm a smart guy. I can do this. And it's like, well, no, you need to go back to school. Like, you shouldn't. I don't know how you even got in here. Basically, is what he's saying to him. And then the other is when the French broad at work, who everybody's really hooting and hollering, turning into a little wolf cartoon, watching. And it's like, oh, she's French. Boy, is she ever. Whatever the line. It's just a ridiculous line. But he's like, I could get a date with her. And he gets a date with her, and it's the worst date he could ever imagine, because he's already shown that he kind of hates going on dates. We've seen this as he goes with Claudia or whatever, like the Bet's friend.
Yeah.
And Celine. And he's bored out of his mind with her. And then he goes out with the French girl, and she just dances with other dudes. And there's that awesome shot, like racking focus in the bar, and he's just sitting there watching her just going wild. And he's just so miserable. And then he keeps going with it because he thinks he's going to get invited in, and then she doesn't. And so like that sums up Pete. But the Joey thing is the fact that, like, even though he's working a crappy job and he's got a baby on the way, he's like, oh yeah, I bought all this stuff for maybe like $800, and I don't have to pay till October. And then like you get the later scene when they've downgraded the apartment, and Pete's like, am I the only one who works around here? I know you haven't done anything for 3 weeks. And it's because Joey's, at the scene earlier, talked about how he spent 2 days trying to find work, and after that he just gave up and drank beer and watched TV all day.
Yeah. It was so weird watching that, because I grew up as TVs were still evolving to the point where now I feel like TV is just this like whatever, like we all kind of watch these big screens. I don't follow whatever the 16K or 24,000K or whatever
I know what you mean,
whatever the next thing is. But it is weird to watch them fawn over this ancient technology, and then know that it was this almost like economic marker that meant they had spent too much money, but it was also kind of a status symbol, and it was this excitement at the time.
It was a cultural symbol too.
Yeah,
it was like no, this is what they're aiming for.
Yeah,
they can't ever reach it, but this is, and so they're play acting at having that status, having that cultural touch point, and he can't afford it, and he and he ends up getting consumed by it.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, well, of course you get similar things in British and American and other movies as well, but this, I think it's a little bit more disheartening in some ways because of the mundaneness of the film. Is that like there's, with like you were saying with American, like those types of films, like you're like either rooting for the guy or you're like hoping that like he gets his comeuppance or something. I'm not sure I know what I'm hoping for these guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I already know they're not going to achieve. Like, there's no version of this movie where they make it. And if they did, I would call bullshit and say this is not realistic. But at the same time, like, what am I hoping for these two? Like, what is the best resolution for these two? And I'm not sure. I don't know.
But like, what are they dreaming for? It's such an ill-defined dream.
Exactly. It's nebulous. Like you were saying with the Canadian dream, it's nebulous. It's like, at least like with the American dream, it's like, riches. It's there's the very rare but possible striking luck and getting a fortune. You don't really have that in the way the movie sets up these two characters and what they're doing there. It doesn't strike me as there's nothing set up in the movie
Yeah.
that would allow them to achieve something, because what are they trying to achieve in the first place? That's it's almost even more depressing in my opinion than like even the British films. Whereas like at least in Britain, like there's a sense of like no, even in like class systems, you can be on the high end of a class and be doing all right. You can be like the richest of the poor, be in a better situation than most. You can be the richest or the poorest of the rich and still be better than most of the middle, so forth and so on. But you don't get that sense in this movie in any kind of way.
It's interesting you mentioned class because I find this movie is one of the few films of that period that I think really defines class distinctions in a way that seems really authentic, because
Yeah.
in Canada has classes but less than Britain, and then America pretends to have no classes really, right? Like that's
Which
kind of
is BS. Yeah.
no, but that's kind of the American approach, right? Like
Yep.
that's the promise. You're all American.
It's the middle class. We're all middle class.
You're all middle class.
Yeah.
Canada pretends at that somewhat, but doesn't quite have it. But it's not a true distinctive hierarchy like British.
Yeah.
But this movie, man, like Joey is totally the guy who just wants to enjoy the pleasures of what he can achieve within his own class. Pete aspires to the higher class. It's the whole sequence in Sam the Record Man store where the really cute girl is listening to Satie, and he's like, I just love the line reading of like, I'll take one. I'll take one. Like it's just, and then he's like, you realize all the other guys have like stolen the records, and he paid for this classical record that he's only ever going to listen to out of pretensions of achieving and thinking he's going to be something more than he is. But there's something like admirable about the fact that he does want more, where Joey doesn't.
Well, and if you think about the scene where he actually does end up putting the record on, it's actually a surprisingly touching scene. Like it almost strikes me as like for a moment in this film, he actually has a moment where he's like, he gets it. Like he gets the music, like he gets why people listen to this.
Oh yeah.
He it's not about airs. It's like he's like taken by it because there's that little smile that kind of curls on his face.
No,
and it's really touching. Like I was really kind of moved by that scene.
Yeah, I appreciated when it came back for that reason.
No, but like Pete, I think the tragedy of Pete is that he actually has the potential to maybe cross over. Like the moments, the advertising interview, the date, and the music are him engaging with things outside of the things that, he grew up being told that they're not for you. They're not for guys of your class. They're not for knuckleheads who've not, they work in garages or odd jobs, live in flop houses and haven't graduated from high school. But he's like, why? Why can't I do that? When they first show up and they're in the Salvation Army, which they're both taken aback by staying in the Salvation Army because, again, it's a lower class thing. He's flipping through the newspaper and, oh, look at all the jobs here. Look at this. Salesman, this, that, and the other. I could do. And his approach to everything is not just, that sounds great. It's, I could do that. Why can't I do that? Why couldn't I do that? And
it's almost maddening what the guy says to him when he goes in. It's like,
it's so frustrating.
Go back to the Maritimes and go back to school. Oh yeah, because that's going to work.
But it's like Pete has enough ambition and smarts to get in the door, to actually go to the interview, but he doesn't have enough to like push through the actual class barriers that others are going to erect around him. And that's the tragedy.
He doesn't know the buzzwords. He doesn't have the markers. I mean, honestly, because I didn't know what to expect, I wasn't sure. And to Pete's credit, he gets there, and I'm not sure if it's going to be one of those situations where, oh, I'm going to give you a chance, and then, which maybe is speaking to my American cinema expectations, but it's almost set up in that way where you don't know what's going to happen, and then when he gets rejected, you're like, I should have seen that coming. Everyone should have seen that coming, but Pete, he at least puts himself out there. So.
But it almost makes it more devastating for him, right? Because he can't accept the fact that he's not able to get out of this rut. Well, Joey's really happy to be like, well, yeah, whatever. Like, there's going to be problems that I have to deal with in October, but right now I'm kind of happy in my little, my new high-rise apartment. Which, just an aside, I find it hilarious because when I was going to film school, I was staying in a apartment made in 1970s. So it was like the exact same era as that one, with like the parquet floors, the same kind of gross off-white walls, and the radiators along the rim of the outside wall with because it was the steam, water heating. And I was just like, oh man, it's the Toronto condo experience of the 70s. I feel like I could just smell that apartment.
the Toronto.
Yeah, basically. Toronto is a city of condos. My God.
Oh, goodness. So what is it about this film that you would say is specifically like I know you mentioned the mundaneness, but what is it specifically about this movie that is quote unquote Canadian? Like why does it have the following it does?
I mean, I think it's that it captures the ambitions and contradictions of Canadian, like, kind of dream making, class struggle, and this idea of, I think the road is kind of an important concept within Canada, specifically because it's such a massive country that is so spread out geographically. So there is this idea of, like, Vancouver and Halifax, Nova Scotia are the same country, but they're worlds apart. They're so far apart. It's the same as being like Madrid and Nairobi, basically. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a world away, and yet it's the same country. And so there's this idea that if you just push on into the horizon, which it's a parallel to the American thinking, but it's not the same. The idea of the frontier has a promise of something that I can define for myself, but it's not necessarily that kind of yeoman farmer. I will shape the land to myself. It's more of like, well, I can like withstand what I'm going to find out there. And out of that perseverance, I can prove to everyone that I am the person I think I am in my own head. Mm-hmm. I just find like that this movie captures this Canadian striving so well, and in the duality between the two characters. It's also the fact that Toronto has a kind of an outsized control over Canadian imagination. I moved to Toronto chasing a dream like so many others, and this movie, me and my wife were talking about this earlier, and we were like, this movie could be remade now, but instead of two guys coming from the Maritimes, it could be two guys coming from India working as like food delivery dudes. Mm-hmm. With this dream of like, I'm gonna make something of myself in this big city, and the reality they're met with is a job that they could have had at home. It actually is basically the job they had at home, and they're it's a world without class, but they're treated like an underclass, and they're pushed up against, and they want to break into it, but you're not allowed. It's just, Canada also is so defined by immigrant experiences. But it doesn't always have to be a literal immigrant. It's just the idea of the outsider entering into the established civilization. It's the person outside the garrison entering it and been confronted with all these rules that they were never told existed, or in fact were actually told that explicitly don't exist. And it's like being confronted with the contradictions that underpin the whole society. Like, Canada is such a contradictory nation in so many ways. We're not British, but we're not American. Then what are we? We're not French, we're not English. And we're not, it's not, it's just the stupidest thing ever. It's like, it's like, is Toronto cold? Yes. Is it hot? Yes. It's like, it's both. It's not, there's no thing that it can settle on. Somebody like Cronenberg, why I love him so much is that he understands the kind of institutional, psychological, philosophical contradictions and like neuroses that underpin this Canadian identity, and he really feels it through like Freudian analysis and psychosexual dynamics about like Descartian, like mind-body divides, etc. He really breaks it down and externalizes the internal things that torture Canadians specifically, but also applies to a lot of others because he's that perceptive, right? But there's a reason why, in specifically his early films, when he didn't have the budgets that he had to work with in later ones, he uses Canadian architecture as kind of stand-ins for the oppressive or contradictory or kind of ominous levels of unassumed, unspoken rules of Canadian society that kind of dictate the terms of engagement. So he's always pointing to all these brutalist buildings that exist in Montreal and Toronto and stuff from the 60s and 70s when Canada had this really, I'm not going to say slapdash construction approach, but like a really weirdly almost Eastern European cold utilitarianism to its architecture. But it just really personified the idea of like, this is what's expected of you, and if you don't do that, like, you're not really a person. You're just a cog. You're just another member of the society. And this movie is a bit of bad on like a ground level of like, these people genuinely don't know what they're in for. They don't know what they're actually going to engage with, and they enter into it with the open eyes of dreamers. But it's the foolhardy dreams, right, of the young man that just they're literally driving down the road, and they like ram into a brick wall, with their stupid My Nova Scotia home Impala, right? Like,
which is, I mean, it's for me that's the part that is the most painful, is that, you know, when you identify so significantly with a specific region, especially it sounds like in Canada even more so than in America, going from what you know into a legitimately new place, you're trying to remake yourself. I would imagine that's even more jarring. Like in America, like you can go from New York to LA, and yes, they're thousands of miles apart, but it's basically the same. Like, yes, there are little, you know, small markers of difference, but there's not, like, if you're doing one gig in New York, you can do the same thing in LA, and it wouldn't be a massive issue. Whereas I would imagine, like, they literally have to remake themselves every place they stop
yeah, no,
in
that's
order to like survive.
I know, like, they're heading for Vancouver, but I was like, you just know that they're going to stop in Winnipeg, and then they're going to stop in Saskatoon, then they're going to stop in Calgary, then like,
Yeah, they're gonna rerun this whole thing in different jobs at different, you know, different women, different like situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, oof.
because they're still drawn by the same fundamental kind of dream but lie, which is that all it takes is the desire to achieve something to achieve it.
Man. Well, shit. The further I think about this movie, the more sad I get, Aaron. Thank you for making my life a horrible.
You got to watch the SCTV parody.
Yeah, it'll
cheer
make
you
you
up.
feel better. It'll make you feel better.
Good.
Like
John Candy, it's fun.
I mean, John Candy.
And Eugene
God bless
Levy
him.
shows up.
Yeah,
too.
briefly he's a CBC guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I look forward to watching that, because and like I said, like, this is, I didn't know what to expect. I'd never heard of this film.
Yeah.
Of course, I hadn't heard of the other film we watched with you. I haven't heard of anything outside of Cronenberg, honestly, and so I'm down for the ride. Whatever you want to point and click at us, you do it every August.
You ever watch any Guy Madden?
Yeah.
I know
My Winnipeg.
My Winnipeg is one of my favorites.
Delightful.
Yeah.
Jameson wants me to watch it, and he said he was going to force me to watch it this year, but he didn't do it.
I want to watch it in the winter, so
Yes.
That's fair.
That's like when I think to watch it was,
when the Red River freezes and all the horses get frozen in the
yeah,
in the river.
No,
That's
that
amazing.
movie has like clips that like on rotation will show up in my mind, like Ledge Man.
Ledge Man is just so brilliant. It's so good.
No, it's really good. Blake, I'm very excited for you to watch it eventually. So
And that's a movie that really understands like geographic differences, limitations, but it tilts reality just enough on its edge to like free the filmmaker and the people that he's portraying in this film from the kind of iron dictates of reality and Canadian
Okay.
culture. It seems like the film itself is like a liberatory act.
Wow. Okay. Damn. I'm down. Aaron, thank you, as always. Like, you're teaching us something, which is more than we can say for most of our episodes, because we most of the time don't teach anything. We just talk shit about whatever we watched, and then talk shit about what we didn't watch.
I feel like we've had a couple good episodes where we've learned things. Because last episode we did was Army of Shadows, and we learned to love it, despite Blake's initial reaction. So yeah, and then this episode we learned a lot about Canadian culture and watched an interesting movie. So
And got real sad.
We're on a good streak. I don't know if it'll last, but
Oh, it'll last. It'll last.
We'll just keep
most of the. This kind of fits within the prison theme that we've kind of, unintentionally carried throughout this season.
This is definitely a relaxer type of prison.
Yeah.
Prison of your own making.
Yep.
Aaron,
what are your thoughts on Petricus?
Have you seen Petricus movies?
No, I actually haven't. I should, because I know that, like, specifically the Film Spotting guys are big fans of him.
Yeah.
I need to watch Buzzard, and I need to watch the one from last year, Vulcanizadora.
Yeah.
That's the movie that made us watch all of his films for one episode.
They're not even that long. There's not that many. I should watch them.
Honestly,
it's 5. It's not bad.
But Vulcanizadora, like, that was probably my favorite film from last year, now that all the dust has settled. But, like, that was, again, about kind of on theme with this, 2 losers that are friends, and you kind of don't know what's going to happen. So,
yeah. And shit goes sideways real quick.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, it's but Relaxer is
a lot more
lighthearted. It's a hell of a movie. I would be curious to see what your take on Relaxer is, Aaron, because it is a movie unlike anything I'd seen before.
No, I need to track him down. Blind spot.
Yeah, we actually reached out to Petricus to get him on the show, and he gave us the best response ever. A massive no, but the best reasoning ever.
Yeah.
Was it,
oh. Go on.
No, I was just curious what it was. I was just curious what it was.
He just said he stopped doing podcasts because they make him anxious. So, no, sorry. Yeah. Which
It's nice that he responded.
Yeah. It was honestly very, very nice that he responded. So, yeah.
He could have just left us in the lurch like the other guy that we reached out to a couple of years back.
We didn't reach out. Wait, who are you referencing?
The documentarian.
Oh, he reached out to us and then
he just ghosted you?
And then ghosted us.
We were like, yeah,
he finally listened to our show and he's like, oh, I don't know about this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, his
maybe you should do your research before you reach out to podcasts.
Yeah, I have like contacts for certain filmmakers that I'm just like, I don't want to actually ask them to come on something or interview them unless I'm gonna like do a ton of work, because I feel like it's like insulting their time. I tracked down where Rowdy Harrington, the guy who directed Roadhouse, so he disappeared from basically like after he made movies through the early 2000s and stuff, but like he retired and then he's lives on like a ranch with his wife and stuff, and like I found out where he lives pretty easily, and I was just like, I need to talk to him at some point because I need to get into his mind, because honestly his other movies are pretty interesting too, like Jack's Back and Striking Distance with Bruce Willis and stuff.
I forgot about that one.
And Roadhouse I think is just like magnificent, but I have not pulled the trigger, so the fact that he even contacted Petricus is, I find, very admirable. Like recently, the closest thing I've come to is I tried to get an interview with Olivier Assayas, but I just like literally hemmed and hawed about it to the point where I missed any potential window for it because I was like, does he speak English? Would there be a translator on there? Like, how would this actually happen? And then by the time I'm like, yes, I would talk to him, and they're like, sorry, he's done for like last week was the time he would have done it.
Yeah. You've happened upon the podcast with Pete and Joey, and we just have nothing more. I mean, like we got nothing to lose. So.
Yeah, it was basically us doing the interview with the advertisement guy.
When we reach out to famous people, it's because they are our color TV, and we're just trying to get them while until we have to pay out, 6 months down the road.
I'm serious. During this little part here, I'm like, Doug McGrath is like super old. Is there any way he would like chat about this movie now? Because he's like 90.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like, I would love to chat with him about just his career in general.
Do it. Yeah.
Or Jane Eastwood. She's still alive too.
You know what I thought would be an interesting way to invite someone on a podcast? Write them a letter. Inviting them on a podcast, I think that would be a vibe. You just receive something in the mail.
That'd be pretty sweet.
I feel like we're all men of a certain age. Do y'all remember whenever you could search, like, I think they actually had, like, books and things like that, but, like, in the early days of the internet, you could search out, like, the actual addresses for, like, the mailing addresses for, like, the P.O. boxes or whatever. Of course, it wasn't their actual houses, but you could find the addresses you could mail a letter to for, like, actors and actresses. And I remember, I think I did it a couple times for, like, who, I don't remember who I did it for, but I remember thinking, this would be badass if they, like, responded. I mean,
Did you ever get any responses?
No. The closest I got to something like that was in the early days of Facebook, and I befriended Scott Derrickson, and so before he got big, he had just done like Exorcism of Emily Rose, and I just shot him a message on Messenger, and I mean this was like the early days of them opening to the public, no longer being a college only site, and I remember the first 5 minutes of the message, like the conversation I had with him, which was like an hour long, that we like traded messages. And I remember thinking, first 5 minutes was me. Are you really Scott Derrickson? Like, are you like? And he's like, yes, I am that guy. That's the closest I've ever gotten to something like that. So,
Scott Derrickson was fairly active in certain internet circles for a period of time, and then I feel like he got on the Marvel train and then stopped. Because I remember for a while with Arts and Faith, the like kind of online film. It was a forum, and then it's kind of a critics group now or whatever. But he would pop in there occasionally and give like picks on the year-end lists and things like that, or just like just kind of show up and be like, okay, I'm going to talk to some of these like Christian film critics for a bit because they get me.
Yeah. I kind of lost the loving feeling. I mean, don't get me wrong, Scott Derrickson, if you want to come on the show, that's fine. We would have.
Yeah, this is an open.
I kind of lost the loving feeling when he got a little bit more famous and his Twitter. He just started saying stupid shit on Twitter, and I was like, oh, "Come on!"
And that's the Twitter way. It's the Twitter way.
So yeah.
But we did both like Black Phone too. So
I haven't seen the second one. I like the first one. Yeah.
Black Phone too. I actually think I liked it better than the first one. Just saying a lot because I liked the first one a lot. Good. I'd already kind of given up on him at that point, and then I got asked to be on a show talking about the first one because the new one was coming out. I was like, okay, for sure, I'll watch it. Why not? It's Ethan Hawke. Like, Ethan Hawke doesn't usually let me down, at least. And I watched it, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good.
I feel like he's a filmmaker who is really keeping jump scares alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not even. I don't even mean it like as a bad thing.
No.
He knows how to use them quite well.
And he uses them fairly sparingly for the most part.
But he'll hit you, like punch you in the face once or twice a movie, and you're like, oh, God.
Yeah. No, it's very like he's good about that. Like that's one of his best talents, honestly. But yeah. Total side note: Scott Derrickson. Why not?
He's better
On a
at them
Canadian-
than I can't remember. Haunting of Hill House. That guy. Who's the director?
Oh, Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
Mike Flanagan. Why could
Yeah, screw that guy.
I'm getting old. I feel like he does jump scares, but he will talk your ear off with monologues for an hour, and
Well,
then
it's just
just
because
like
you'll be
throw.
bored, and then all of a sudden something will hit you, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah, that's-
okay."
That's the
I'm
problem.
awake. I'm awake.
I like Flanagan well enough, but I also think that he's like essentially just making the same story over and over again.
I
Yeah.
liked enough of the early stuff to know that there's good in what you can do. I want him to hire like an editor who just cuts him down and is like, okay, this is all you need to show.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe stick to movies. Don't do TV shows.
the Bruce Greenwood Lemons like soliloquy from the Edgar Allan Poe show he did.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I didn't even watch that one.
My wife watched
I watched
that
the
one,
very
but
first
I
one,
watched
but-
I like was sitting in the room, and I think I know that one that you're talking about.
I like Bruce Greenwood, Canadian, but
Oh.
I think Flanagan makes a lot of his movies here actually,
Oh, nice.
but not
I
in
mainly just wanted
Canada.
to bring it back around to America because we can't just be talking about Canadian movies.
Yeah.
Not many people want to talk about Canadian movies, so I feel like you're tanking your views or listens every time.
No, yes, all of our
We're gonna
views
cut
and listings.
the one in half. It's literally just going to be like, how many views did you get? Half of a view. I don't know how you do that.
It'll be Thad. He fell asleep during the second half.
Yeah, I'd only put one earbud in during the. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you, Aaron. We always appreciate you coming on, and we'll have you back if you'll come back.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I definitely don't take it lightly, and I in a very Canadian way. I try to come prepared with lots of
which is more
information
than we put into it. So
that was seriously great, and I enjoyed the movie. So and I enjoyed the completely different perspective on film coming from Canadian uprising, I guess, but uprising.
Wait, there's a Canadian uprising,
side rising, something like that. But
what are you talking about, Jameson? You need to go to sleep.
I need to go to sleep. That's what I'm talking about. I really, really did like my experience with this movie. So, thank you, Aaron.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Going down the road, film about the Canadian uprising of 1969.
Don't worry. I'll get some rest.
Yes, thank you, Aaron. Thank you again for coming on. And well, I think you should watch this movie. It's some good shit. I was impressed. This is 2 in a row. Like, yeah, we had our issues with the last film. Don't get me wrong. Like, it wasn't perfect, but I feel like you're bringing the goods so far. So keep it up. Don't disappoint, because we will cut you.
Yeah, you won't get an invite in 2028.
Loving the threats.
2027, yeah. Yeah.
And also listen to Three Brothers Filmcast.
Yeah.
And read the Three Brothers Film blog, because it's always exceptional, even if I don't always agree. I at least appreciate the thought that goes into the opinions and the the film analysis. So y'all like Nolan and Spielberg way too much. But at least
We like our guys, yeah.
I mean, I listened to the whole Odyssey episode, and I haven't seen the movie yet. Because I mean, it's the Odyssey. If you don't know what's going to happen, like,
Hey,
it's like Titanic. It's like going back to school in middle school after watching Titanic, and people asking, "Don't tell me what happens."
Nolan still fits a twist in there.
Of course he does.
I'm not trying to, overplay it here, but yeah, he does.
My favorite thing you said about the Odyssey was it was very gray.
It was very gray, blue gray. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, Three Brothers film and film cast. Check it out. We'll put it in the notes, which are very slim because I'm usually rushing to get the episode out. But yeah, Aaron, thanks, and
Thank you, Aren.
Thank you.
adios. Bye.
Bye.